Good morning. Dr. John Taylor Kent here. My puppy dog is in the doghouse this morning. She's pulling on the leash too much. She's trained better than that, but just got carried away. So we didn't go for the full 1 mile walk that I had planned. I need to cover some stuff with you. First of all, John Taylor Kent here. Put the doctor in front of it if you like. I guess I'm supposed to introduce myself in a way that lends to credibility, but sometimes I get ashamed of the doctorate. And the other problem is most of you don't even understand what a real doctor is. You're used to seeing these MDs, medical doctors, and basically they're technicians, drug company technicians. That's their job, is to push that stuff, and when they act outside of it, or if they don't prescribe the new medications but stick to the old medications that are much more affordable, then the pharmaceutical industry complains against their licenses. So they keep track of how much those guys sell. It's a big racket. I don't think they should have any credibility at all. Now, the medical profession has been around for about 100 years, maybe slightly more, whereas my doctorate, the PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy, has been around for over 4 centuries, almost 500 years. So there's that much tradition behind it. So it means basically I have a Doctor of Philosophy in psychology, which means it's supposed to mean that I understand the philosophies undergirding my discipline. And I think that's kind of a tall ideal, especially in this day and age. And I'm talking about my day and my age. I stopped practicing psychology in 2006. And I do miss working in the field, but I don't miss the other jackasses in the field. The liberals were just horrible. When they find out you're conservative, they do everything they can to destroy you. And they've been doing this for a long time, and yet we're told we have to have tolerance and we have to coexist. Yet they want to destroy us. I do highly recommend the videos of Brother Nathaniel. Um, he's an amazing man. Short videos, brilliant. Watch him all the time. He's got his own website to put his videos up on so he can avoid the censorship. So he does speak rather raw. And I would have to say that he's aligned himself with a proper church. That is the Russian Orthodox Russian Church. The Russian Orthodox Russian Church, yeah, right. The Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, they've adhered to the tenets of Christianity much better than the Roman Catholic Church has. And he was a Jew, has been converted. So those of you who wonder, is there such a thing as a good Jew? Yeah, Brother Nathaniel's an excellent example. Now, I ask for some tolerance because as I read these scriptures, there's some problems. And one of those is that we can turn things around and interpret it the other way. For instance, sometimes it talks about, I will spread you around the earth and make you a derision. Now, a lot of people like to point to that and say, that's the Jews. Well, it could mean the Israelites just as well, because today, look at us. Are we not derided? So, when you're joining my show, and this is Awakening Israel, yesterday I uploaded a video to my main channel, Dr. John Taylor Kent. The bandwidth here is so limited. I think I got 2 little digits at the most, 2 bars on my cell phone. And it takes all day to upload these videos, so I can only do 1 video on each channel a day. So I do suggest you keep up with me. The video yesterday was my answer to Jordan Peterson. And I have to say my respect for the man has gone up. My big concern is he would not point out who the evil ones are. He's actually identified a group that I didn't even know existed. A group of accountants that are behind this evil programming on global hoax warming stuff. Look, there really is global climate change that's going on, and we're going on through it right now. But their stuff is a scam. And their scam is based on the premise that carbon is a pollutant. Are you kidding? all of our life forms on planet Earth pretty much are carbon-based. There might be some silicone-based ones. Those would be probably at the bottom of the sea near some of those lava vents, some of those volcanic vents that are totally always spewing out those heat, those chemicals. There's some creatures that might not be carbon-based in those. But anyway, I need to bring up a new book to you, if you will, a new version. Now, I still think the proper name version of the King James Bible is the latest and the greatest Bible. The publisher has asked me two things. What do you want? Yeah, all right. Well, I want an Apocrypha. I want a modern English Apocrypha. And the problem with that is going to be that the 14 books is not hard to agree upon. But the real problem is the versions, the source material. To give you an example, I have 3 copies of the Apocrypha. One's in paperback and I haven't opened it. I need to look at that someday. It's still pristine. It's in storage. Then I have these 2 other red books, if you will. And this I bought for $7. It's $12 or more today. I have read it a little bit, you might say. Now, if I didn't mark this stuff, and this is a combination of yellow highlight and red ink, hot colors that draw your attention to it. And I underline the important passages. And then, so this is the Apocrypha for the original King James. And I don't like the source material. I don't like the fact that there's some verses missing in this version compared to the one that's in this other red book, the New Oxford Annotated Bible. This is a modern English version, and there are some criticisms of it that are a little bit beyond my understanding. I would have to say that just generalize about those, that would be that this doesn't quite have the same spirit as the King James Bible does. And I think that it's the perspective by which the committees did the misinterpretation or interpretation, however you want to call it. But this is a modern English version of the Bible, and it's got the Apocryphal books in it. And it also has some wonderful pre-chapter descriptions, which are not offensive. They don't offend me in that there's no preconceived notions. There's no political agenda in the comments or in the study notes or any of that. It's rather straight ahead. And here, you can see I've done a little bit of reading in that, and you'll see I dog-ear my pages as well. I wanted to get another copy of the King James version, that smaller book, but once they raised the price, I said, oh, the heck with it. Why? Because there's approximately, and I haven't looked at this lately, so I'm going to go by my memory, approximately 70 verses missing out of the King James version compared to this modern English version. And why is that? As near as I can tell, it's because the King James version, some of the apocryphal books, were taken from the Latin Vulgate. And in the modern English one, we have some of the apocryphal books taken from the Greek. And so we end up with 70 more verses, and the verses are kind of critical. They explain what happens to the souls who do not make it, the order for those who are condemned, and then it has a passage shortly after that, maybe a chapter later, I think it is, in which it lists the 7 orders. Each of them has 7 orders, the 7 orders for those who make it. And I think that's important. I think that should be included in the Bible. I'd like to see it included there. So if you buy this proper name version, which is a major improvement on the Bible, you can call up the publisher. You could ask him, hey, where's that Apocrypha at? I already told him, make it a standalone book. I think that people should focus upon the meat and potatoes that are in the Bible proper more than on the Apocrypha books. you'll see when you read the apocryphal books that some of those can't quite be inspired, or there's some things that just don't seem to be quite right. And you'll read about Solomon's wisdom in there, and you'll go, what? What's he thinking? Yeah, I don't understand quite a bit of that stuff. I also told the publisher what I really wanted him to do, and right away, was to come up with a parallel translation with a proper name version side by side with a decent version of the King James Bible. So on one page, preferably the right side would be the proper name version, and on the left side, you'd have the old King James version. Why would I like that? Well, there's enough differences in the interpretation that those of us who really want to understand it, especially those of us who spent most of our time in the King James, it would be nice to have them side by side. For one, if there are variations, and there are variations, you can see those. Perhaps the greatest variation throughout is in the syntax and in some of the these and thous and those things which have been modernized. But the syntax, because the original King James, the syntax, if you will, is reversed from what we're used to today in modern English. Now, I'm going to point out to you that the reason the syntax is reversed in the King James Version is because it's closer to the syntax from Paleo-Hebrew. You see, Paleo-Hebrew, they wrote from right to left. From right to left. That's my right. Okay. From right to left. So they started writing on that side and went to this side. We today go from left to right in modern English and some other languages. But in general, just to characterize things, remember the Tower of Babel? Well, when the languages were confounded, it meant it on several levels, and the populations, the people fell apart on different sides of that tower. And the general guideline is that those who fell to the right side of the tower wrote from right to left. So they wrote their letters in the direction towards the Tower of Babel, from whence we were all at once united. And then likewise, those who fell to the other side, fell to the west of it, would write from left to right. Doesn't hold water completely, just a general anecdotal thing to tell you. Very important passages in probably the most important book out of the whole Apocrypha 14 books is 2 Esdras. 1 Esdras is surely a second. There are some lesser books that are kind of quaint. We can learn from those quite a bit, actually. If you want to know about a marriage license, it's in the apocryphal books. It's in the book of, I think, the book of Tobit. Book of Tobit, they had a marital contract. That's the only place in the Bible, these manuscripts that I can find in all 80 books. If you want to know about an earth age, this is the place to go. And if you want to know about the Edomites and how bad they are, this is also the place to go, because it tells us that Nebuchadnezzar may have sacked Jerusalem, taken all the people into captivity, but it turns out that the people who burned the temple were the Edomites. And they are our enemy. They've been able to get all of the literature censored in order to hide their existence and hide who they are and what they are. So according to Eustace Mullins, they've been able to censor the literature for at least 3,000 years. It probably goes back a little bit further than that. But that's pretty much all of modern history, as to what we call it anyway. So the Earth Age has limits. And I'm looking at 2 Esdras. By the way, Esdras is another name for Ezra. Ezra and Nehemiah in the main Bible proper. So this is 2 Ezra. It's actually properly called the 3rd book of Ezra. And the 1 Esdras should be called the 2nd book of Ezra. So with the 1st book of Ezra being the one in the Bible right next to Nehemiah. So this is 2 Esdras 14:11. For the age is divided into 12 parts, and 9 of its parts have already passed. as well as half of the 10th part. So 2 of its parts remain, besides half of the 10th part. The way this language is, it's still kind of Old English to me. So I assume that a part of this is 1,000 years. And so with that in mind, and knowing that this was probably written during the time of the Babylonian captivity, sometime between 622 and 650 BC, that's when Esdras, or Ezra, however you wish to say it, that's when he was held in captivity. So if we go 1,000 years, there's 12 parts to an Earth age, 12,000 years. I could be wrong on my assumption. A part might be different. It probably is a little bit different than 1,000 years. It might be 1,024 years, just like binary language comes up with. Because this, believe it or not, is a binary universe in many ways. I mean, those people who tell me we're living in the Matrix and it's a computer code and all that, there's evidence for that. And I can find it in the Bible, no problem. Of course, you can make out of the Bible whatever you want. You can use it to say one thing and the next day go back to Congress and say the other thing, like used to happen when we first became a nation. A guy would walk in and tell you one thing out of the Bible and the next day walk in and prove the opposite. He was brilliant. What was his name? Well, there's a story about him. It's a good book. I've been meaning to get it. Daniel Webster. Okay, so I think what's important also is what I have underlined down below that. In verse 17, for the weaker the world becomes through old age, the more evil shall be increased upon its inhabitants. So we are at the end of the earth age. There's no doubt about it. Now let's figure that this was written in about 700 BC. And he was halfway through that earth age already. So he's in the 10th part and half of it's past. So we have the 11th part and the 12th parts to go through. So there were 2,500 years left. Gee. 700 BC brings us up to 1,000 years, takes us up to what? That throws me off still quite a bit, but we're approximately 2,500 years later right now. I mean, we're in the year 2023, and that was written at about... So if we enlarge this period to 1,024 years, we're right on the edge, which is where we are. And in case you're wondering about evidence for that, look up in the sky. Look at the sun. What color is it? Now, most of my life, it's been a yellow, a distinguished yellow. The sun was yellow. And we were told that women shouldn't wear yellow because men are blind to it and won't notice them. It's one of the things that was spoken of in my life. Today, the color of the sun is kind of a garish white, a garish bluish white. So it is brighter, and we're getting a whole lot more radiation off it, and it's a different quality of radiation. A friend of mine last weekend, she told me she thought that it had been white. It had changed about 10 years ago. No, I was watching things pretty carefully, driving the country, so my guess is that it changed not more than 6 years ago. Somewhere between 3 to 6 years ago, the sun has changed. Now, it might not be the sun has changed, but I think it is. It could be just our position in the Milky Way as our solar system goes around the Milky Way. And it just might be, but it probably is all of the above. So what happens at this particular position in the Milky Way, which we've been here many times before, and I'm going to take a guess that going around the Milky Way is on the order of 26,000 or 52,000 years. The Mayan calendar gave the end of the world as December 24th, I think it was, or 25th, one or the other of the year 2000. Well, we don't have the Mayan calendar and their stuff. We aren't nearly as accurate as some of the old people were. So everybody thought that meant that it was going to be the end of the world. It turned out that what they were actually marking was the day that our solar system with the Earth goes above the equator of the Milky Way. So just like the Earth has seasons, the solar system has seasons. The galaxy has seasons as well. So we have gone across the equator and we're rising above. Now, there's so many ways I can take this, but what I'd like you to do is I would like you to also get the Apocrypha. Get a good copy of it and read it. 1 Esdras and 2 Esdras. There are some things in this book that I need some help with. And if you wouldn't mind applying your minds, I should say, to, let me see if I can find this. There's a particular, it's amazing. There we go. Chapter 11. The beginning of 2 Esdras, chapter 11. On the second night I had a dream, and I saw rising from the sea an eagle that had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. You guys should love sinking your teeth into this one. I saw it spread its wings over the whole earth, and all the winds of heaven blew upon it, and the clouds were gathered around it. I saw out of its wings there grew opposing wings, but they became little puny wings. But its heads were at rest. The middle head was larger than the other heads, but it too was at rest with them. Then I saw that the eagle flew with its wings, and it reigned over the earth and over those who inhabit it. And I saw how all things under heaven were subjected to it, and no one spoke against it. Not a single creature that was on the earth. Then I saw the eagle rise upon its talons, and it uttered a cry to its wings, saying, "Do not all watch at the same time. Let each sleep in its own place, and watch in its turn, but let the heads be reserved for the last." Oh. This goes on to verse 36. I'll bring this up now, just so that you'll have a little bit of hope. Then I heard a voice saying to me, "Look in front of you and consider what you see." When I looked, I saw what seemed to be a lion roused from the forest, roaring, and I heard how it uttered a human's voice to the eagle and spoke, saying, "Listen, and I will speak to you. The Most High says to you, are you not the one that remains of the 4 beasts that I had sent to reign in my world, so that the end of my times might come through them? You, the 4th that has come, have conquered all the beasts that have gone before, and you have held sway over the world with great terror, and over all the earth with grievous oppression. And for so long you have lived on the earth with deceit. You have judged the earth, but not with truth, for you have oppressed the meek and injured the peaceable. You have hated those who tell the truth and have loved liars. You have destroyed the homes of those who brought forth fruit and have laid low the walls of those who did you no harm. Your insolence has come up before the Most High, and your pride to the Mighty One. The Most High has looked at his times. Now they have ended, and his ages have reached completion. Ages. Therefore, you, eagle, will surely disappear. You and your terrifying wings, your most evil little wings, your malicious heads, your most evil talons, and your whole worthless body, so that the whole earth, freed from your violence, may be refreshed and relieved, and may hope for the judgment and mercy of him who made it. Next chapter, chapter 3, verse 3. When I looked again, they were already vanishing, parts of the eagle. The whole body of the eagle was burned, and the earth was exceedingly terrified. So, I can't do any better than to read this to you. I can try and interpret it and apply it, but that I go in so many directions, my thinking diverges quite a bit. What I enjoy more than anything else is talking about the truth that's in the Bible. And the greatest joy I get is when I meet fellow believers and we get to sit down and we get to discuss what we found in the Bible. And we come up with all kinds of ideas, thoughts, interpretations, symbols, meanings that the others hadn't even thought of. And it's just wonderful to do that. I'll be telling you a little bit more about this particular copy as soon as I get a second one. The prices have doubled on this because it's hard to get. This is an old edition. The prices on the new version are super cheap. You know, it's less than half what it's going to cost me to buy another one of those. I think that we've been following the wrong Bible for too long, and I'm referring specifically to the Scofield Reference Study Bible, which has an agenda and which was designed to give us this modern religion that's in the big box churches where we're supposed to forgive everybody all the time for everything. Well, if you do that, you can't administer justice. And if you can't do that, there's no sense even bothering with the truth. In the NIV, get one thing across to me more than anything else: love, truth, and justice. In that order. The Bible, that version, even though it was done by a bunch of committees, a lot of liberals on it, they weren't nearly as bad as today's liberals, by the way. We are at the end of the earth age. And the man whom I respect the most, who's less than half my age, who's more brilliant than these people in the universities, and I mean the universities put together, his estimation is that we have about 19 and a half to 30 years left before the final event. Right now, the Earth's magnetic field has waned and it's down to merely 80%. That affects you and me, and it affects the animals. It especially throws off the migrating species because they rely upon that magnetic field for their guidance. So the whales end up getting beached because of that, and a lot of birds end up going to the wrong continent even. So that stuff's starting to happen right now. And you've got a flurry of other things happening among the insects, especially in China, where you have tornadoes of male mosquitoes surrounding a female mosquito trying to mate. The ancients all wrote the same thing on the walls of the caves. They wrote the same pictures, no matter where they were. And I don't think they had the phones back then. I don't think they even had telegraphs. I don't think they could communicate. But they were stuck in the caves, and they went to the caves for a reason. And they drew pictures, and they drew the same thing. They drew pictures of the animals, yes, the animals they used to hunt. But they also drew pictures of what they saw in the skies, of the plasma displays. Now, just so that you understand how universal these symbols are, one of those displays is called Squatting Man. And we're starting to see lightning kick up, and we're starting to get plasma displays in the atmosphere. There's going to be more of them. And believe it or not, what looks like the menorah was found on several of the cave walls. And those fellows were doing that way before the Jewish faith was created or invented, I should say. It was man-made while in the Babylonian captivity. They went in as Israelites, and they came out different, came out changed. And we didn't use the name Jews to refer to them until the Elizabethan era. During the Elizabethan era, we added the letter J to the alphabet. So, the name Jesus didn't even exist until then. That's not his name. It's Yahshua, not with an E, but with an A. Yahshua, Y-A-H, just like his father's name begins Y-A-H, Yahweh. These things are being revealed to us for a reason, because it is the end of this earth age. One of the things I'd like to point out is that it mentions in here that God created two earths. This earth, because he knew it was going to be destroyed by these jackasses who run it, they destroy the earth. And another one for those of us who would inherit the next age. And those would be from Jacob, just like it says in the Apocrypha. I hope we take along with us some of the other peoples. We're supposed to be the ones looking over them. But I'll tell you, my honest opinion is that the evil ones have survived several earth ages. I believe they go back to 70,000 years ago, which means they've been through at least, well, what would that be? 6 earth ages? Half a dozen earth ages? So they know what's coming. They've been through it before. The people in the upper inner circles know what's coming. They're digging in. And right now they're doing the best they can to oppress us, because they know that no matter what happens, this catastrophe is going to affect the whole planet. However, the Hopi give us a little bit of Hopi. That is that if we right our behavior, then we will be spared. And the book of Jeremiah that we went over recently, some of it, we're going to do some more. If I can find a prominent theme, I'll bring it up. The book of Jeremiah, throughout it, it talks about how if we repent and we do what God says to do, we do his laws, we live that way, then he saves us. So you folks who think you just have to say some magic formula, almost like witchcraft, saying you believe, and that's it, I don't think that's it. And also, that's a big box church thing from the Scofield Reference Study Bible. What else is from the Scofield Reference Study Bible? Oh, Moses was a Jew. Did you know that? You'll be very pleased to pick up the Scofield Reference Study Bible, and you will see in the side notes, footnotes, whatever. It had footnotes and side notes. It says Moses was a Jew. Moses wasn't a Jew. There were no Jews until the Babylonian captivity. Oh, I'm going to guess that was 700 years later. At least 700 years later. There's been a lot of infiltration of our seminaries and our Bible translators. And just to give you an example, a lot of you think you're Calvinist. Who was Mr. Calvin? I'll tell you this. His real last name was Cohen. And there was a great debate between Calvin and Arminius. I think that's his right name. The Arminians. I think the Arminians were right. Look at how they were crucified. All of those beautiful young women with long hair hanging naked from crosses on the sides of miles of road. 1.5 to 2 million Armenians were genocide by, what is it called, the Turks or the something Turks. It turns out that was just another name for a group of false Jews. I'm not saying all Jews are bad, please. But it was a bad group of Jews, Sabbateans, I believe they were called. And I believe what the Sabbateans believe is that in order to go to heaven, you got to actually sin. So you've got to do the worst sins you possibly can do so that you can be saved. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Tell you what makes sense is abiding by the law and abiding by our Father's will, because that's the example Yahshua set. He didn't say, believe on me and you can do whatever you want. No, he didn't say that. He didn't say, believe on me and you got license to go out there and sin all you want, buddy. I got it covered. No, he did not. He said he did nothing outside of his Father's will. He set the example. You and I are supposed to abide by those 10 commandments. The best we can. I know it's not always possible. And then we're given the blessings. You want to know what the blessings are? Read the Bible, Deuteronomy and Leviticus. It's a double witness. There are curses for disobedience, and they are twice as long as the blessings for obedience. And things don't happen necessarily in the order they're written in the Bible. And when you read the curses for disobedience, tell me, are we not reading about our nation today? Because we're suffering all of those curses. And remind yourself that this guy that's ruling the planet today, these groups that are ruling the planet today, they all think they're God. They want to be God. One of them, Mr. Soros, even said he was God because he had such an impact over people's lives and countries. And he does. He's had that going on. And there are several American oligarchs, including the fellow who heads up BlackRock. That's the big one. I was shocked when Mel K revealed that. And you also have, at the bottom of it was Soros. He was the lesser of the 5. Anyway, go look up Mel K's videos. I want to impress upon you that the climate, the Earth's climate, is going to go radically different. And it's not because of carbon. It's not because of fossil fuels, which there's no real such thing as that. It's all minerals that the Earth produces perpetually. And yes, carbon dioxide is increasing as a result of the warming. It's not causing the warming. But we are going to see some amazing cooling coming up. I mean, right now, the summer's ending early. The heat's going to break early in Phoenix. It's going to break the earliest I've ever seen. Traditionally, October 4th was a day you could roll in. And then it went to the end of October. You had to wait till November sometimes to beat the heat. Now, it's going to throttle back here in August. Not even September. And by the way, these jet streams are no longer going at nice curves across the Earth and dipping down a little bit and lipping up. They're just going straight down and straight up. You don't believe me? Well, what happened to Texas a couple winters ago? And why was it the rest of the country wasn't getting cold? It's because the jet stream was coming straight down. So we're going to see the jet stream losing its wave and its boundaries and going across the Earth. We are going to see winds pick up. But all of this is because it's the end of the Earth age, and it's designed in the creation so that the Earth gets recycled. Our sun goes micronova. They don't want you to know that. How do we know that? We took cores of the ice from different locations on the planet, Greenland included. And when we went through those cores, the samples we took, we found certain radioactive isotopes at different bands of those at different levels. And we looked at those and they calculated the differences in ages. And that's how they came up with the fact that our sun goes micronova. That's how the Ice Age begins. There's a physicist who studied strictly that. And so we're due for another Ice Age. And then likewise, the next Ice Age will end the same way the last one did, with a solar flare. There's another scientist who studied that in particular. So we have the physical evidence showing our sun goes micronova and blasts all kinds of stuff and forms a deposit on the Earth, gets covered up in ice, gets covered up in sediments and all that, and we can find those. So that's one of the ways in which we can tell what an Earth age is. Go look up my place on Facebook. They made me eliminate the doctor. They didn't like that. They want everybody to be equal. Couldn't even use the nickname Doc. That's okay. But look it up, and you'll see what's called the precessional clock. And you'll see that we are at the 6:30 position on that clock. There are 3 previous extinctions that have occurred at that time and place in space around the Milky Way galaxy, in our solar system. It's not the most destructive valance on the whole clock. The most destructive valance is exactly opposite. So when we drop down below the equator on the other side of the Milky Way, I assume that's the case, I don't know for sure, then we're going to go through another period. And it has 5 extinctions on it compared to 3 on this particular one. Of course, we're going to be increasing that to 5 here pretty shortly. This whole thing was designed from the beginning by the Creator. Even the other Earth, the second Earth, it says was created. It says we were all created before the Earth was formed as well. Which means our nature must be something different than these bodies. All right, this is going to take an easy full data upload. I went way too long. I'll put a short blurb up on my other channel to guide people over here to Awakening Israel. Like this video, share this video. Might want to watch it a couple of times. I hope I've given you enough to think about and enough gems. I was asked to show my puppy dog, Will. That's her. Lorraine. You can't quite see her. I'll get her out sometime. She didn't treat me very well this morning, sadly, so I've got to do some more alpha dominance over her, or I'm going to have to pass her on to somebody else. Have a wonderful day. Read your Bibles. Buy my Bibles. Support my channel by doing that. Become one of the 5% Bible readers in the United States of America, which I would prefer to call just plain America. Good day. Yahweh bless.